Hey guys, here's the gear for today. Much of it the same. We're changing up the razor, going with the 16, the vintage Gillette Aristocrat 16 for today. Had the 15 last time. The brush is the same because we are testing the Slurry Lather method with this soap and this brush, because I want to get a feel for how the Slurry Lather works with a high density, kind of more modern brush. And this is a batch 13 from Declaration Grooming, not here. The handle is Briar Brushworks and Dogwood Handcrafts. Joint effort there. The blade is the same one I used yesterday, Gillette Platinum. It's got maybe 7 or 8 uses on it now, I think. The remote learning continues to be the soap, and that's from summer break. Smells like Doritos is the intention, but so far for me, it's a little bit less sweet than it was in previous days. It's a little easier to get the corn chip vibe from it, but I think mainly it does smell like kind of cinnamon cookies to me so far. With 2 shaves on this now, this is getting a little bit more moisture. But even bumping the, for the first 2 shaves, I kept the load time the same, because sometimes that's what you should do, because you leave more moisture behind. And so that second time, the 20 swirls might just be perfect because the soap releases itself a little easier. But it wasn't enough. So we're going to bump it up this time, maybe 30 or 35 swirls. And see, because we made a small change and it wasn't quite enough. And so you can keep making small adjustments, if you want, when you're in this type of situation. But I feel like making a larger adjustment. The cool thing about the Slurry Lather method, and I think it's time for a graphic. Here's the graphic. When you're shaving, this is the course of the shave. This line represents water existing in your lather and your brush, on your face, all that, as a separate entity. It's not part of the lather, it's just water. This is soap, existing as separate. And here is when they're both perfectly joined inextricably as a complete mature lather. Okay, with the Slurry Lather method, you're actually shaving past number 1 here when the water and the soap, they've combined a little bit, okay? And so they've lost a little bit of their normal starting amount. And so you get that the soap is on your skin as a slick layer, but there's plenty of water still around to help and manage that soap and make it all slick and protect you from drying and things like that. But on pass 2, we're now getting a little bit more lather because the water and the soap are both starting to reduce from the point where they started out. And so we are getting more lather, but it's not a full mature lather yet. And so then pass 3, kind of the same thing. And of course, depending on how much time you spend working the lather in each of these passes, this point right here where they're joined and you have a mature lather, that can change. Okay, if you shave really quick passes, then that point may be farther down the line and you may never actually get to that point in your shave. And it's up to you if you want to do that or not. But if you spend more time working your brush during these passes, you may actually hit it between pass 2 and 3 or during pass 2, it just depends. Okay, so this is an illustration just to give you the concept here. And here's the main point, is that if you load too much soap, it's still not really a big deal with the Slurry Lather method, because look, we're not, we don't have okay, if you load too much soap, then at this point, it's kind of overly dry. It's a little too dry. It doesn't quite give you the slickness that you might want, the protection on your skin. The razor movement might not be quite as nice as if it had more water. Okay, so this would be a too dry point. And so in a sense, you don't want to get to that point. But with the Slurry Lather method, you may never get there. And so if you happen to put too much soap on your brush, then you're still operating. If you do it by this kind of paradigm, you still got plenty of water available to help you in all the passes, right? And so that hit me, and I as a thought, and I thought, that's pretty cool. So I think, and so all this to explain why I think it's okay to overload in this case, because we still have that separated water, plenty of it during the shave to help out. So let's see if that's true. It seems to be true to me. I think it's a good educated guess. Let's see if it works out that way. So what should we load for? Let's load for 40 seconds. That's double what yesterday's load was. Probably too much, but let's err on that side this time. And hey, it's science, right? It's data. Let's give it a shot. Get my face wet. And let's load up the razor. Since I brought in this number 15 Aristocrat for the last shave, I thought I'd bring in the 16 for this shave. And you can see the difference. We've got a little inset part right here, where right there is flush. Same thing down here at the bottom. I talked about that last shave. Well, this is what it looks like when you have the 16. The 16 is a little smoother than the 15. You can see it's kind of a rocket style mechanism where the knob moves up the handle as it lifts the center bar up. Both these razors have the center area, the base plate there, as solid instead of that beveled diamond. And that is a requirement for the 16 and the 15. It's also a note that you have a more premium model. The 66 is almost indistinguishable in appearance from this, except for that base plate. With the 66, it is that beveled diamond and thinner, and here it's the solid base plate. There's another way that's put. Both of these happen to have, both of these have that center bar, of course, and the 66 is illustrating the notched version. See, there's a notch right on the end, on each end of the center bar, whereas the 15 is illustrating the unnotched version because it has that T-shape at the end. I prefer the T-shape because I think it holds the blade better, but this was for a gimmick to get the blades out of their little dispensers. The bottom, the 15 we talked about, is a hollow handle, and the 16 is a solid handle there. All right, so that's just a little comparison between the two. Since we used the 15 recently, let's take that platinum blade, throw it into the 16. Couple days growth, but this 16, even though it's smoother than the open comb, it will still take care of it easily. All right. So we said 40 swirls. Let's do that then. Face is wet. Oh, and I'm going to leave this thing really pretty wet. I'm going to let whatever water's in there fall out. Isn't it funny how the water will stop or start depending on what angle you're using? Okay, that's still really wet. A lot of water in there. If I jostle, you can kind of see some of it still come out. Let's see what happens. 40 swirls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40. I'm going to let the kind of excess drain into my lather bowl here. I won't be mixing the lather up in the bowl, but it's just kind of like you're seeing now to contain the excess and to hold the brush when I'm doing rinses and things like that. I'm using some of this around the side stuff for a little face wash and rinsing out the side of the threads there. All right, so were we able to load up enough soap on the tips here? Let's see. Does it come together as a slurry pretty quickly? Not as fast as the boar brush. Does it retain the water? Now this particular batch of Declaration Grooming knots, the B13, is very soft, and that's why I like it actually. He does have a lot of others that have much more firm tips. See, we're not getting that slurry right away. Wonder if I came at this particular soap with too much water in the brush. Well, we've removed some of the water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Extra 10 swirls. I had a time once where I was using Cella, and I discovered that if my brush was too wet, it actually impeded the loading of the soap. That could be what's going on here. Now the lather's coming up a little better. Dipping into that little kind of watery slurry that's in the bowl here, just to kind of add more hydration. There we go. That's interesting. So with this high density Badger brush, I may have to be changing the method a little bit, because the water in the brush, in this particular brush at least, seems to be kind of hindering the picking up of the soap. And this 16 is doing great, easily slicing through the stubble, very comfy. I do feel the blade edge, but this, along with the 15, it's just put together so well. The geometry, obviously, they knew that they were doing when they put this together, because it's comfortable yet nicely efficient. Get a rinse now. And that was a good study point there. I gave my face a little rinse, because meaning that when I loaded extra soap, kind of more than I thought I would need, that just underscores the point that this just being so wet and coming into the puck at that state just wasn't picking up enough soap. But as you can see right now, we've got a great slurry. It's super, super slick. So I'll have to give that a little bit of thought. And we've removed a lot of the stubble. Like I said, this is a great shaver. And so I could easily walk away with just a 2-pass shave today. You don't have to go open comb or super aggressive to get a close result, usually. All right, terrific. Little water splash now. And I can feel that slickness on my face. That is kind of the trademark of the Slurry Lather method. My guess again is because it's laying some of that soap that it picked up right on your face. All right. Third pass. This is more of a slurry than the third pass of, like when I use my boar brush or a standard density Badger brush. That's because we just kind of had to treat it differently. Almost, I don't know, should I always have a bowl there with a little bit of water in it, you know, to help it out? Because I think the knot is just not able to hold the water that it needs. And yeah, I can feel that the stubble is just gone. And this is just a little pickup to maybe catch. Oh, now I'm catching some because I've changed to a more aggressive direction. And there we go. Gillette Platinum is a wonderful blade in these vintage Gillette razors, which is not a surprise, right? Made by the same company and all that. Of course, that is just how I'm experiencing it. The platinum may not be as good for you. The platinum also doesn't work universally well for me in all razors. So it's a subjective thing, and it's a relative thing. You may also like the platinum in some razors, but not others. And there we go, 3 passes. A messy pigeon in a statue kind of situation here, but it's fast. And I've been talking to you and doing commentary and showing you different razors, and we're still at 15 minutes. So it's a fast method. It is a slick method, very protected. It's because of all that extra water that we talked about. Excuse me. The sweetness is backing off just a little bit. It could mean what I've been smelling today in terms of my nose, the coffee I was drinking or something, because that can affect your perception. All right, what are we going to use today for a balm? On hand, I have Mountain Man from Stirling, and it is a balm that is a scent that it's a dupe of the Creed Silver Mountain Water, I think is the name. I really like that scent. I like to put it on when my face is still a little bit on the wet side. Spreads very easily. You don't need to use as much. I have oily skin, and so I don't need a lot of balm protection. Very good. So the solution moving forward, what do I want to maybe try next time with this? With a high density badger, as we work to see if the slurry lather method works with it. What could that be? I maybe need to load with a drier brush to be able to pick up enough soap. It could totally be a different story with a different badger brush, even a different high density badger brush, because these tips can be a little on the jelly side, and so that affects how they drag through the soap, how they drag across the top of the soap, and how they pick up as much soap as they do. And so that it could be very different. You may not need to change anything with your slurry lather technique with a firmer tipped, high density badger. But this is what I'm working with. So what I could do is not come at the soap with quite as much water in the brush. I think that seems to be the way I need to go. And then from that point on, I can add water just with any of the usual methods. Sprinkle some in, with each pass. I could, if you do have a bowl handy that you're using just to kind of set your brush in during the shave, then you could have some water in there. You could, when you take your brush out of your soap cup, or after you finish with rinsing it before the shave, you fill it with water and then kind of shake it out. You could shake that extra water into the bowl, so there's a couple things you could do. I think that might be the better way to go. And let's just see what happens next time about that. The soap and blade, razor and blade today were terrific combos, just like the 15 was yesterday. The 16 just worked wonderfully. Just feels so nice. It's not invisibly smooth where you don't even feel the blade, but the blade is just in very, very good control, good clamping right there near the edge, and so you don't get a lot of sound. The blade edge is moving nicely and smoothly across your skin. And with today's lather, you saw how wet it was. And so the soap was on my face with the wetness around it. It was doing its perfect job of protecting my skin and giving me a slick razor action. So terrific. And the Silver Mountain Water scent from Mountain Man is smelling really good right now. I'm enjoying that. I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I am dying to try the synthetic here. Whether I will do whether I'll pause my work with the high density badger to do the synthetic, my curiosity may overcome me and I might have to do that. We'll see. Take care, guys. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Thanks for joining me. Good night.